Today's podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation. Well, every year we set aside November 11th for Veterans Day. We do this to honor those who have served in the armed forces. Today, we're going to meet some remarkable people who are stepping up in some very unique ways to pay tribute to our American soldiers. Stay with us. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. Each week, special guests tackle the issues facing the moms of America today. Discussions include personal stories and advice on how moms can build a strong foundation of faith, family, and freedom in their homes and country. Hi, moms. I'm Debbie Curletis, your host, and welcome to the Moms for America podcast. We are so glad that you're joining us again this week. Every episode, every show, we get together and we inspire, encourage, and educate moms in their journey through motherhood. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started with today's program. On November 11th, we celebrate Veterans Day. It was originally Armistice Day. It began in 1919 as a commemoration and celebration of victory over the end of World War I, which had ended on November 11th, 1918. Well, in 1954, after World War II, President Eisenhower changed the name to Veterans Day. Today, we're remembering our soldiers with two special guests. One has sculpted an outstanding new war memorial, and another is introducing a brand new initiative to help vets in crisis. Our first guest is Sabin Howard. Sabin is a master sculptor who has been referred to as the Michelangelo, the American Michelangelo. In 2016, Sabin won the Centennial Commission's competition to create a national World War I memorial. This is amazing. His massive installation, nearly 60 feet wide, 10 feet tall, was recently unveiled in Washington, D.C. on the National Mall. It's incredible. It's entitled A Soldier's Journey, and it features 38 figures depicting the story of an American soldier throughout several phases of the war. So before we meet Sabin, I'm going to go ahead and show you an incredible video. It will introduce you to him as an artist and show you part of this in progress as he's creating this magnificent masterpiece.
All of a sudden, you're creating something that changes everybody's perception of what is possible in 4 years. That's my deadline. It's never been done. Don't let people tell you that art's like all about how you feel. It's massive bull. If you don't know what you're doing, all you're doing is like throwing like paint up on the wall and saying it's a masterpiece.
New Jersey-based sculptor Sabin Howard has been commissioned to create the World War I memorial.
An exclusive look tonight at the making of America's new World War I memorial.
And the sculptor, Sabin Howard, considered the best in the world.
I just want people to know that you're referred to as the greatest living sculptor, America's Michelangelo.
I'm responsible to humanity. I'm responsible to history. The digital is a great tool to expedite and create an armature. It is absolutely not art. Art has to come from the human experience and has to be created through the physicality of our hands and our mind. I can have a platform and I can talk about the bull crap that Jeff Koons and Damien Hirst create. And if you destroy Western art and culture, then what are you going to replace it with? Building and uplifting are hard. They're hard because the time it takes to establish mastery in art form is a lifetime's voyage.
I was commissioned to commemorate a war. This war is one of the most horrible, meat-grinding moments in all of human history, because all of a sudden you throw in machinery and this industrialized destructive force comes in, and skin and bones and flesh is no match for metal artillery shells being lobbed at human beings as they march forward.
It's really important that the visitor have a visceral reaction to what they see.
I know they've already decided what they're going to say, so this is an act of pro forma.
This is right next to the White House. The entire kind of east side is not connected to the rest of the park.
The scheme that we've already accepted has been presented to us 7 months later without the alterations and revisions that we asked for.
What we did was to make something that speaks about human consciousness and the human heart. Once the threshold is crossed and you walk inside, it's like this sense of belonging to something bigger than oneself.
What an incredible video. What an incredible project. The man of the hour is here today on the podcast. Thank you, Sabin, for joining us. Our moms are going to just be so inspired by this project and your vision and the chance to see it. It was amazing. Welcome.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me on.
All right. So much to talk about, right? There was 360 entries in the competition for this National World War I Memorial. How did you come up with clearly the winning concept?
Well, we entered it, and I knew right away that Centennial Commissioner Edwin Fountain wanted something like the Schrady Memorial. It's the Grant Memorial in front of the Capitol. And there was nobody else in the entries that could make a sculpture like that. So that already left me very enthusiastic. And I was like, we're going to win this. In January of 2016, sure enough, it was announced that Joseph Weichart, this young 25-year-old architect, not even licensed, architect in training, and myself had won this National World War I competition.
Incredible. I mean, what an honor. I'm sure you were just, well, it sounds like you were planning on winning, but what an honor that was. And then you talked about Joe. So he was an architect that partnered with you. Explain that a little bit to us.
Well, this is not just a sculpture, it's a whole site right in front of the Willard, 150 yards from the White House. And so what we had was a 2-acre site that needed to be a city park, urban park, as well as a national memorial. And we fit that the best because Joe's concept didn't destroy the existing park, but actually took the bones or the structure, and then the memorial would drop into that. But it wasn't as easy as that, because then there was a lot of back and forth with bureaucracy in Washington until I got started finally sculpting in 2019. So it was a voyage.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sure. Had you ever done anything like this? How do you get started on this? And like you said, what a journey this was.
Yeah, I'd never done public art before. I've been sculpting for 35 years, doing something that looked very much like out of Greece and Rome. I am really following in the footsteps of Western civilization and history. Very traditional type work. That I'm a citizen of Italy, a citizen of the United States, and my heroes are Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael. And
Right.
so
You have all that
gonna
influence. Yes.
yeah, that's what we're going to make. We're going to make something, because that's what I knew. That's all I know. And so we're going to make something that is so elevating and awesome for general public. And that's the big thing. I made something that general public will get, and it's visceral and it's exciting, and it puts art back on the trajectory that it should be. It's like, make sacred art for our country and be in service of your country. And I had to grow up a lot. It was really an on-the-job training type process.
I bet 10 years, right? From
Yeah,
concept to
10
completion?
years. Yeah, we went through 25 iterations the first 9 months, 25 different iterations with like 40 figures. I took 12,000 images. That's 12,000 poses that I had to
Wow.
pick from. And then you have to knit this whole thing together. So it's like flowing from left to right. And the concept was like from the beginning, make something. This is the mission that I was given. Make something that when the general public comes, they're not like art appreciators, they don't go to museums.
Right.
Make something that gets them really excited about World War One. You're representing your country, it has to be excellence.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, movie in bronze. You make a storyline here that so when you walk from the left side to the right, it's like you're looking
Movie
at
in
the movie.
bronze. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And it's a story that's it's an everyman story. So it's a soldier, a dad, an allegory for the United States. He appears 5 times, starting on the left side. He leaves his family. He enters into service. He leads his men in battle, and in that horrific moment is transformed. And the next part, he's shell-shocked. He's walking directly out off the memorial wall to the viewer. So he's staring directly at you,
So
just
cool.
shocked, changed, transformed, like the world was transformed by this moment historically. And then there's the flag with the superhero section of the men returning home from war. And then
Mm.
the final scene is the dad handing his daughter, he's returned home. She is the next generation, and she gives him the helmet. That's World War II.
Wow. And this is really history that has been lost that needs to be revived and needs to be revered and experienced. And that's what I love about this. It's an experience that you walk through. This soldier's journey is an experience that you kind of walk with them.
Yeah, it's very, very important culturally at this moment. The sculpture is about unification of our country underneath one flag, and that is the highest point on the memorial. There are many types of people on this wall. There are 7 women. There are 2 children that are the alpha and omega of this project. And it is not about victimization in the least bit. It's about rising to the occasion and heroism and the sense that we are a united country. And I've always said this because I've looked back to the art of like Florence, like the pieces that were there
Mhm.
500 years ago, like the David, that unified a small city-state Florence to fight against Pisa, the giant. And this is exactly the same thing. It's like a unification of a country under a monument. Rather than thinking of us as, a fractured country, it's the only way that we will, survive and proceed forward. Otherwise, we will fail.
Right. And they've tried to erase history so much,
Yes.
with
Yes.
landmarks and statues and just monuments across the country to see something like this erected and to celebrate our freedom and those that gave and fought so hard for that. It really is so important in today's culture.
Yeah, you could think of it as a very subversive move on my part. We put a 60-foot long, 25-ton, 38-figure composition 150 yards from the White House.
Incredible.
And the statement is, yes, we are proud to be American.
Amen. What were some of the challenges when I look at this, when I've watched the video and I've looked at some of the behind the scenes on this, what were some of the challenges of creating this? Like you said, it was a learning curve every step of the way, but what were some of the things that maybe you weren't expecting that you had to figure out on the job?
Yeah, on the job training, as they say in the military. There is no book for making monuments for dummies. I
Right.
can't go to Barnes and Noble and go look on the bookshelf and find, okay, this is how you do it. There's no manual, right?
Sure.
So here we go. We enter into this fray, and it's DC. And mind you, you go to DC and everything is committees and meetings, and the whole idea of like one individual having a vision and then playing it forward, that's not the way things work.
Yeah.
So here you have one artist, and I meet like 100 or more bureaucrats. And then this is what happens.
Red
And
tape. Yeah.
and it's red tape, and it's like everybody has a vision, and they're telling you, okay, more horses, more barbed wire, more biplanes. How about people charging up over the top into no man's land?
Oh,
And
so I didn't understand this. So when you
yeah,
received the yes, you won, create,
right.
everybody has a chance to weigh in on this now.
Yes. And now all of a
Oh,
sudden I am being told by a whole slew of people that are now all these bureaucrats, and now they're all of a sudden they're all art experts
oh,
overnight.
sure.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm a newbie, I'm a greenie, and I've just come into this like thing that they call the swamp, and boy, it is, yes, it's worse than that. And I 3 months in, I'm in my studio and I go look at this poster on the wall. And the poster is of The Last Judgment by Michelangelo. And I have this voice in my head. It says, do what you know. And I
Mm.
looked at the poster, and it was the aha moment that gave me direction and put me back on course. That Last Judgment of Michelangelo is all of humanity. All of us are mortal. We will all meet our maker. And it is all of humanity intertwined like a pretzel, advancing and receding into space. It's very visceral. It's very dramatic. It's
Mm.
very active. And so I go back and I start these compositions. And so this is now probably March of 2016. We get to November. I've done 25 different compositions. Finally, it's accepted. I have to do a drawing, takes 700 hours. That puts me into the next year. And now it's
700 hours.
yeah,
Let's just pause for a
2017.
second there. Wow.
Yeah. And it doesn't end, because now I have to make that drawing that I've done into a 3D format model. And it's May of 2017. There's no money. We have no money. And so I go out and I raise $500,000, and I take the project all the way to New Zealand to a small boutique workshop that has done Lord of the Rings. And
Oh,
we make a 10-foot maquette of the whole drawing, and I ship it back to the commission, Centennial Commission, in February of 2018. And they are literally in tears because they did not expect it. Now I have to go through the Commission of Fine Arts. And that is like the biggest blockade that you've ever witnessed. But I'm the most stubborn bastard you've ever met. And so now we're going to get through, and I'm not going to get into like all the mud, but by 2019, I make another model with a foundry in the UK that is with the architecture. And then I get the contract from Centennial Commission to proceed. And so as of August of 2019, I start sculpting in a studio in Englewood, New Jersey. And then I'm sculpting along, and then what happens? COVID comes. And
oh
then
boy.
they can't come to the studio to mold, the foundry. And so we have to ship the first 11 figures all the way over to the UK. So we get shipping containers. We cut the original clays, the monument apart, and the first section goes off to the UK. It arrives. There's a sigh of relief on our part in the studio. And then we continue sculpting the next section, the battle scene. And this went on for the next 4.5 years, where we would do a certain amount every year, and they're casting it in the UK. And I'm shipping my clays. And after the 5 years, they have 5 sections. And by this year, we finish casting in June. And then 4 pieces were shipped back to Pershing Park and assembled in that park and unveiled on September 13th of this year. So this is
Incredible.
really an epic journey. Yeah.
I would say epic is an understatement almost, but I love your devotion to this, because you could have given up.
Yeah, very much so. But it's like
Yeah.
the more I got into it, the more my true purpose in life came out. And as I told you before, this concept of being in service of became something that was my reason to get out of bed every morning, no matter how tired or miserable I was. It was like, you're in service of people that have gone off and come back with, maybe less than the body than they had when they went off the battle, or less of what their psychology and their mind had when they went off. And so those people have given more than any civilian can understand. We're external to that circle servicemen and women. And so the project became incredibly meaningful when I started using veterans as well as models.
Let's talk about that because obviously this is a special on veterans and appreciating those that have fought for our country and our freedom. And you know, a lot of that's been lost. I don't know if people are really giving due to our veterans and appreciation for what they have done. I was wondering, what was it like to sculpt, like you're making this soldier come to life and the story come to life. I guess it must have been emotional in some ways because
It's
you're
very
almost living
emotional.
it, right?
Yeah, you are living it. The way that I sculpt is very traditional. So let's say 3 feet in front of me, I have a model, and it's a human being, and that human being has a history. And these are soldiers actually that I'm sculpting at this point at the end. And so I'm 4 feet away and I'm spending 650 hours per person, each sculpture on average, 650 hours per
Wow.
average sculpture. You get to know that person. And when you look at their morphology, which their body type and your history is there in what you have gone through in your body. Your body changes through the impact of war. And the
Sure.
gestures are about, you know, going forward. And what we did is, I think, really, really revolutionary and radical in this moment historically. A lot of the art in the world is very conceptual. And I have a problem with that because as human beings, we look at the world with our eyes. It is our
Mhm.
primary way of gathering information. 80% of the information of the world comes through our eyes. And so what I thought was art when I was a young 19-year-old kid and started making art was the art of Michelangelo and Leonardo, like I said. That's
Right.
visual art. You look at it, you look at the David, and you're like, everyone knows that is art. It's programmed in our psyche. And then you got this thing called modern art, which in some ways it's a scam because you need to go read a book to actually understand it. So you cannot make a memorial to human beings that is completely visceral and gets into their actual energy, the energy of sacrifice in service of the freedoms that we enjoy on a daily basis. You can't do that on a visceral, impactful level. You can do it if you just do something very conceptual, but it stays up here.
Sure.
It's very
Sure.
ideological. And that's not what the general public wants to do. They don't want to look at stuff and have to read a book. They want something that really hits them in the gut. And so
Sure.
that's what the mission became. And so I saw that I was in service of so many things that, look, you're making a memorial, it's a national memorial. If you don't make something of amazing excellence, you failed. You make something mediocre, you have failed. That represents our country.
Right.
So the other thing is all those figures, they're incredibly kinetic. They're like exploding, moving from the left to the right towards the future. And so they're no
Mhm.
longer like these static figures that you might see in a church that are like in the architecture. No, they're like moving. They're self-reliant. This is
Right.
about free
I'm
will.
looking at
This is
them now.
about
Yes,
like
it's amazing.
that is the challenge that this project brought. It makes something for general public. They come to Washington to learn our history.
I want to know, why is it so important that we keep these sculptures alive? I know this is an obvious question, especially World War One. Why was this special to you? Why did you feel like this was something that you wanted to do?
Well, World War One marks a line in the sand where let's look at it from a European perspective. 22 million people are decimated. That means villages, families, complete environments, jobs, cities destroyed, leveled. I mean, completely destroyed. And there is no longer a sense of divine order. We move into a change about how we see each other as a species. There's
Mm,
kind of like this sense that if this tragedy occurred, how can there be a God? And we move into this modern era where it's this nihilism, this chaos. There is no order that defines the universe, but
mm,
we are all separate beings. And it's the beginning of modernity in a way. And this is really, really ironic. Okay, this is a memorial to World War I, and I'm using the form and the aesthetics and the philosophy that anticipated the war. And we're putting it firmly 150 yards from the White House, 106 years later. So this is a full circle. We are now returning to an art form that speaks about God and how we are all unified and not fractured and alienated. And I think that that is something that is very powerful at this moment historically.
Yeah, that's so true. What has the response been for those that have had a chance to see it live, which I can't wait to
Um,
do? Tell us.
that's
I'm
a
sure it's
great question. My favorite part of this whole project after it was sculpted was seeing people's hearts open and join in community when they looked at the
I'm
project, at
sure.
the figures. And they weren't all veterans. A lot of them, yes, had family members that were veterans, but so many
Hmm.
people just came over, and there's a sense of sacredness, that humanity
Mm.
is sacred again when you look at a project like this. It is very pro-human, and we've moved into an era where it's like AI is sold as
Right.
something that makes humanity not valuable. It's ridiculous. So this is my response, my 2 cents worth, and my purpose is to say, yes, we count as human beings. Yes, our country should be proud. Yes, we should be unified.
You talked a little bit earlier about art and the reverence of it, basically. We've lost a lot of that in today's world, isn't it? Because the culture, the kids are playing video games. We've lost a lot of creativity as our moms are even listening to this, just about renewing the arts and renewing
Yeah,
interpretation. And I mean, you look at this as making a movie.
yeah. The sense that the phone is almost trapping our vision because it makes your mind and your eyes focus in on an object that's 3 by 5. And so it doesn't allow us to be as creative and individualistic as we could be. And I didn't have a cell phone until I was 37 years old. Um, the way that I learned how to draw
Hmm.
and sculpt is no longer taught in art schools. It's a lost art form because everything has gone towards a digital
That's what I'm
computer
saying.
format. Yeah, and so this is actually going to become a global initiative. I'm naming it the American Cultural Renaissance
Mm,
because it needs to be brought into the attention of not just the United States, but the globe. And that's what's happening, that this type of art is still possible and available. But it will require that we backtrack a little bit and redirect people towards becoming more human,
mm.
meaning technology is not the answer for everything. It is a great workhorse or tool to be used, but it has to be used by a human brain. And that's what the art's about as well.
It is so inspiring. When you see this and you understand that this was actually a creation, um, by someone. This was your vision and you had your hands in it and you molded and you made it. It's really astounding to see. Artists like you are always creating. I hear that you're also planning your next piece. Let me see. Is it called? And it's right up our alley with Moms for America. It's called what? The American Exceptionalism
Yeah,
Arc?
it's another monument that will probably end up in Fort Worth area. I'm talking to the mayor of Fort Worth
Okay.
and several other people. Uh, it's a history monument going from the colonialists and the Native Americans all the way to 9/11, led by Lady Liberty. And in front of Lady Liberty is a young girl. And that is the future. And there will be 40 figures in this very kinetic movement.
I
They
love
are
that.
highlights of our history that have made us, and the main concept that brings all of this together is movement, and it's movement forward because to have free will, you have to act upon it. And to act upon it means that you are responsible for your life. And I am of the thought that politics are not the answer. Politics are the problem. Government is the problem. Each and every one of us as an individual and as families, as mothers and children, we all, especially the mothers, more than anything else, they are the ones that create and help form the child. And it is I have two daughters. One is 34 years old. She is a doctor and just gave birth to a baby boy. And I
Oh,
have a
congratulations.
90-year-old who is at Ohio State and is very interested in the military and becoming a communications major. And
Nice.
the amount of energy that we have to put into our children is incredibly important because that is actually the next generation. And so
100%. Yes.
yeah, we talk about the phone and all this. This is a way to like not take responsibility for your children. I mean, it's like my kids may hate me because I said, no more phone after this time. But it's necessary. It is so necessary. And the family is what we need to do better in this country. And I have some ideas about that, but that's a whole nother topic.
Maybe we'll do a sculpture on the family, you know, who knows? But I love that Lady Liberty. I love that you're talking about America's history and exceptionalism. That's something that has been really completely downplayed. And we know that America is the greatest country in the world. And we are so glad to be Americans. And thank you for honoring World War I. And again, this is so when anyone goes to Washington, D.C., they look for this monument 150 feet from the White House.
Yeah, you can't really miss it. It's right outside the Willard Hotel.
There you go.
And it's got a beautiful platform that you can see the whole monument from. And there's a water feature. So you can, at night, there are lights on that reflect the monument into this pool of water in front of it. So it has this very physical and ephemeral spiritual quality to it. It's a piece that it reinvigorates the idea of sacred. And I'm not about like digging up the past and doing this archaeological thing of like, let's make classical art like classical all over again. No, I'm about taking the classical form and the things of value from Western civilization, play them forward in a way that's super exciting for general public. And it's like, it's valid. It's about us and living right now. You don't want to recreate the past. You want to make the future with traditional values. And so I want to leave you with this thought. Let's make art great again. And that's where I'm headed. I'm going to make art.
I love it.
Again. That is
I
what
love
I'm
it.
going with this.
Thank you, Sabin. I just love your it's really like a testimony of your journey as an artist, what you have been able to create and do for all of us to become inspired, for all of us to honor our veterans, and for all of us to understand that so much has been paid here in America for our freedom. So God bless you. I cannot wait to see it in person. And I will let you know. I'm sure all of our moms, take your kids, take your family, go ahead and see this incredible memorial when you stop by Washington, D.C.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. All right, moms, we're going to go ahead and take a short break. But first, as always, I want to ask you to like, subscribe, and share the podcast with all of your mom friends, especially those today that are veterans, because it's a special show for them. And if you happen to have a special subject or a title or something you'd like to share with me, would you please email me at podcast@momsforamerica.net. I would love to hear your suggestions and always hear from everyone that's listening. Lastly, I do want to invite all of our moms to join the movement here. If you haven't had a chance to join our family officially, it's super simple. You go to momsforamerica.us and sign up for our newsletter and take advantage of our resources. We have all kinds of forms you can fill out there that may specifically help you as a mom. Moms, we are all across the country uniting together. We are fighting for faith, family, freedom, and the Constitution. That's what we're doing here at Moms for America, and we would love to have you join us. All righty. Well, coming up right after this break, we're going to meet a Gold Star mom who is committed to helping veterans in crisis through an innovative website and a new app that's coming out. Stay with us. Hi, moms. I'm excited to share some news about our new sponsor, the Herzog Foundation. We know you're passionate about raising patriots and empowering your children with the best education possible. And the Herzog Foundation shares that passion. They're dedicated to promoting liberty through education freedom and helping parents like you choose the best educational path. They offer a powerhouse of resources designed to support families and schools alike. Whether you're ready to dive in headfirst to the world of education or simply looking for more ways to empower your child's learning. From free training events to their must-read online publication, The Lion, they're committed to keeping you informed about what's happening in education. Also, if you've ever thought, moms, about starting your own Christian school or co-op, their School Box online course will give you everything you need to get started on the right foot. Again, we are so proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation, and we encourage you to explore all their amazing tools and the insights that they offer. So go ahead, visit herzogfoundation.com to learn more. You won't want to miss these incredible resources. Again, find it all out at herzogfoundation.com.
You know, I've never really felt comfortable sharing pictures of my kids on social media. Then I found Tuvu, a premium social app with an actual, authentic community. No bots, no one trolling me or my family. Just clean, wholesome content you can trust.
Welcome back, moms. Our next guest is Pam Halal. Pam is a Gold Star mom who lost her first child, Marine Derek Halal, in a gun battle in Iraq 20 years ago during the Iraq War. This battle was one of the most intense fighting that the military had seen in 30 years. Well, since then, Pam has stayed closely connected to Derek's band of brothers, and now she's very involved in a project to save the lives of veterans struggling with PTSD. Well, welcome, Pam, to the Moms for America podcast. Thank you for joining us. This is a very important week for all of us with Veterans Day.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Will you tell us a little bit about your family? I know we're going to talk specifically about Derek and a lot in this interview, but what about your family as a whole?
Well, I had 5 kids. Derek was my oldest, and he was killed in Iraq in 2004. And my next child is a girl, and she has my one grandson. He's now going to be, well, he is, it's October, senior in high school. And then I have another son who's in the music festival industry for EDM type music and travels all over, running those festivals and keeping everyone straight. And then my next child is a son, Joseph, and he is now in the Army Reserves and training to be a firefighter. Yeah. And then my youngest, Alea, she's 23, and she's very talented in the art industry, photography, clothes designing, wants to study film and media.
Nice.
And so that's them.
That's your tribe.
Rude. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you started with Derek because he is your oldest. And again, it's always very hard to talk to a Gold Star mother because all we can say is sorry and not relate. It's been 20 years since you lost him. Could you tell us a little bit about Derek? Because he was a pretty incredible kid.
He was exceptional. I spoke at San Clemente this past April for the 20-year reunion of his battle and the dedication of a plaque at Simplify Park. And Camp Pendleton had a big 20-year reunion of their battle because it was the heaviest the Marine Corps had seen in over 30 years at the time. And so the band of brothers have stayed in contact with each other, stayed close. It's their camaraderie. It's what gets them through many hardships and trials. And I've stayed close to them and have grown to know even more over the years. And it really helps heal a part of my heart. But Derek, he left a big impression on almost everyone he met, and his Marine buddies are no less in part of that. He was 6'5". He went to college to study computer programming. What his true passion was to be a sports agent. He loves sports, everything sports. And he always talked about joining the military when he was younger, but it didn't really come full circle until after 9/11. He really didn't want to continue with his college. He had 9 weeks left, 3.4 in computer programming, and he said he wasn't going to waste one more day of his life doing something he really didn't want to do. So I was devastated, to be honest, because I wanted him to finish college and I wanted him to pursue his future. But he got the greater call and joined the Marine Corps. And he left in 2003 for boot camp. And then in February 2004, they headed to Kuwait and then into Iraq. What they thought was going to be more of a peace mission in the city of Ar-Ramadi, but it was in that hot spot, that Sunni triangle that we've heard so much about over the years. And it didn't take long for a jihad to be called. And over the years, I've learned a lot more about the whole situation and how they most likely had mercenaries coming in from other countries who were involved in that battle. So he fought the good fight, and he received the Bronze Star with Valor for his actions while in Iraq. But he's very, very missed in our family and amongst his friends.
Oh, I'm sure, and I'm so sorry about this. So 20 years since his death, when you said that this battle was, what was it? Some type of battle over 30 years. They hadn't seen a
It
battle
was the
like this?
heaviest battle the Marine Corps had
Heaviest.
seen in over 30 years since Vietnam. It was the heaviest battle they had seen. There was fighting going on all over the city. It was Echo Company, Weapons Company, Fox Company, Golf Company. My son was in Golf Company. All of that entire battalion and army, they were all under fire in the whole city. They were all fighting. Yeah.
Wow. I know you share a lot about Derek as a Gold Star mom, and you share his story and his testimony, which I really want to hear, because this was something that he was going to share at a church youth group, and you now have taken this and you share it across the country on his behalf. Really? Right?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us about this?
Well, Derek had written on 12 index cards his personal testimony, and he had planned to come home from leave before they were going to get deployed and give it to the youth group at our church, which would have been about 300 kids at the time. And he developed some sinus issues, either between the transfer from California to Indianapolis. And so he asked the youth pastor if he could give it the next Sunday before he left. And he said, well, I can only give you 5 minutes then. So he said, okay, well, I'll just give it when I come home, because I know I'll have more of God's goodness to add to it from there. And we didn't know what it said. We were unaware. He shared a couple verses with us when he was home, but it wasn't until his casualty officer, or I should say our casualty officer, brought his personal belongings over 6 weeks after he was buried, that he took out those 12 index cards, and he said he had been trying to figure out this young man with this larger than life personality, good looking kid, 6'5", had his whole life.
6'5", right.
Yeah, his whole life ahead of him. Why he quit college, joined the Marine Corps, and he held up those 12 index cards. And he said, after reading them, all the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. And he said, I get emotional now, that he wished he truly would have known my son.
Sure.
So I read those cards, and as tears streamed down my cheeks, I was just so proud. I really have resonated. His one of the verses was Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. He used it in reference to the baseball-sized blisters 4 layers deep on the balls of his foot from doing the 54-mile crucible hike that they have to do to graduate from their SOI training. But that spoke to me in large volumes over the years. I clung to that verse. I've shared it with people who are hurting,
Absolutely.
because God does heal the brokenhearted. It's never going to be healed completely, but I have this huge scar in my heart, and I really feel like, because of the connection with my son's band of brothers and our faith in our Lord Jesus Christ, that I am going to see my son again, and I
Amen.
want all of them to see him again too. So that's my mission, is to carry on his mission. And
What
since
was his
then,
what was his testimony? I just before we go on, I know there's so much to talk about here, but what was his testimony? What was the heart of that message that he wanted to share and that you're taking on across the country? What was
basically,
those 12 cards?
yeah, in a short version, it was published with my story in God Answers Prayers Military Edition
Uh-huh.
years ago. Of course, it's out of print now, but the gist of it is that his whole point was he just completed the hardest thing he'd ever had to do in his entire life.
Mhm.
And that some of us don't listen to God or ignore God, but he grew closer to God than he had been in many years while he was at church, at boot camp, and Sunday school. And he just felt like, no matter what, I remember these words in his testimony, no matter what, don't forget there is a God, and he is there for you, and he will always be there for you, ready to take your hand and take hold of your hand and carry you through the trials and burdens of life. And he said that while he was at boot camp, he was at peace, praising God. And so that's what's on our tombstone next to Derek, is along with our son Derek, we are at peace, praising him. That came from his testimony.
Wow. It's really just a wow moment. I can't imagine what that was like to look at those, review those, and almost feel like it was a special message to you, to your
Yes.
family.
Well, and the wonderful part of it all is that I have been able to share it with thousands of people all
Mhm.
over the country over the years. And I always pray before I speak, if there's just one person here, just one sheep who needs to know that God is there for them and loves them, and will help them through the hard times and the
Yeah.
trials and in the midst of adversity, then just let what I say speak through God, through to them. And there's always
Amen.
one or more that comes up to me afterwards.
What about to other Gold Star moms? Are you able to share this with them as well? Because that would be really someone that it's like someone who understands, just someone who's gone through it. I can only imagine that that would be pretty powerful.
There's no doubt there's an unspoken bond between us.
Yeah.
Some people think there's closure. There's never closure. You just learn to press on and live with the pain. One Gold Star mom I'm going to see at the Marine Corps Ball in South Bend, Indiana on November 2nd. She's coming from Wisconsin. My heart goes out to her all the time because she lost her only daughter. I think she was 11 to leukemia. And then her son Ryan joined the Marine Corps, and he was killed the same day as my son. And then her husband just died in the last 2 years from cancer. And her other son, Nick, joined the Marine Corps. And I can't imagine how she felt those years that he was in the Marine Corps, but thank God he came home, and he's married, and she has grandchildren through him. So that's a blessing. But
Boy, you don't realize how many trials and, I know we're just passing through here, but
yeah.
some of these are really, really tough situations that you
Oh.
almost can't even imagine.
Another mom whose son was killed the same day as Derek, there were 12 killed that day, just through the Marine Corps. Well, one was a Navy corpsman, but Christopher was her only child, And I remember talking to her on the phone weeks after we had buried our sons, and she couldn't even see her son's face because it was covered in bandages. And that literally broke my heart, because I thought about, we complain because we have no shoes until we see the man who has no feet. And my big thing was that I would be able to kiss Derek goodbye. And when she told me that, and of course I was able to kiss him goodbye, it was a blessing. But when she told me that, oh, my heart just,
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I have to be strong for the others. She since has passed away, but so many of the other Gold Star families, we are in contact with each other
Yeah.
through Facebook and Instagram and events, and
Right.
it really keeps us going.
It is. It's a community of, um, I don't even know what you would say, just of survivors and warriors, and when you
Survivors
lose a
with
child,
broken hearts.
survivors with broken hearts. Yeah, to right. How would you even sum that up? And to all our Gold Star moms that are listening too, we just our hearts always go out to everyone that has lost someone, and especially those that are, of course, serving our country. As we talk about Veterans Day and Memorial Day, I know is where we talk specifically about that. But let's talk a little bit about the Band of Brothers, along with staying connected or sharing his testimony across the country, along with staying connected with other Gold Star moms and families. You also have stayed very connected with the Band of Brothers, right? From Derek.
I do. They call me Mom.
Aw, I
Mom,
love that.
Mama Halal. Yeah.
Okay.
And I love it. We all do. All of us Gold Star moms. When the guys call us mom, it helps fill that
Yeah.
emptiness in our
Mhm.
hearts. But not only that, because pretty much all of us Gold Star moms have adopted these young men into our families and into our hearts. My
Sure.
son's best friend in Minnesota,
Sure.
talk to him regularly. He's very special to me. His family is, and we love him, and we just love a
And
lot.
you all stay in contact, right? The whole Band of Brothers, you guys do
Yes.
events together, you do
So
special things throughout the year?
every Memorial weekend, the guys from Golf 24, I think the other companies do their own thing too, probably, I've heard, but I'm more familiar with the ones who actually serve side by side with Derek.
Mhm.
They go to the hometown of one of the fallen brothers of their company. And so I go too. And I started
I
going,
love that.
and I represent Derek.
They're
And
like, "Come on, mama.
yeah.
Come with
And
us."
they always tell me, you're the only mom. You're the only, one that comes. I have seen some of the other Gold Star parents who have come. And of course, the ones who are at the hometown that we're going to. I haven't been to all of them because sometimes my own children's events keep us from
Sure.
going. But
That's awesome.
yeah, it's quite the experience. And
It's one of
they'll
those special relationships that just kind of keep the memory alive, in a special way when you see those boys, I'm sure. I'd love to talk a little bit about how we can help veterans, as we're in Veterans Day week here. And I know that you have some information for us, but in general, before we get into the website, how can we help veterans? How can we respect and honor them in today's culture where we really do see a lot of disregard for veterans, America, the flag? We all know that we've seen this horrible movement where we don't honor those. But what are some things that we can honor them with? And then I'm going to get into your website.
One thing, a couple people I saw posts or something from are offended if someone comes up to them to say something, and the majority of veterans, if they're in uniform and someone comes up and says, "Thank you for serving our country," they do really appreciate that.
Yeah.
They really do. A lot of the guys are really struggling. They have PTSD, they have wounds, lost limbs, lost marriages, lost souls and hearts, and they are struggling. And I think the biggest thing is to be patient, to be loving to them, to not disregard them as some of the smartest young men I have ever met are in the military. They
Sure.
are committed to our country. They volunteered to serve. They weren't drafted,
Right.
and they would all go back again right now if they had to. I haven't had one single one of these young men tell me they would not go back. Many of them are involved in helping each other. My son's team leader just left very early wee mornings this morning with $20,000 worth of food and supplies to drive from Oklahoma in a trailer truck with another young man who served with him and my son and a couple other friends of theirs. And they're on their way to North Carolina
Yeah.
to deliver food for the horrendous event that happened there.
Sure.
And this isn't the first time they've done this. So they're not just citizens that did their time and now, you know, some have moved on and some are having a hard time moving on. Some are injured and still going through surgeries. One of the young men who was shot in my son's squad literally went through the back of his head, hit his carotid artery and out his sinus cavity. He's had 52 surgeries over the years.
I can't even imagine.
No,
I
rebuilding.
can't. This is why we need to, again, back to my statement earlier, is we need to be thanking them and honoring them, and just really teaching our children about the gratitude that we have for those that have fought for our freedom on every level. So moms, I know you always do this, but in this Veterans Day, let's just really make sure that we remind our children and honor those if we can. I know a lot of times we would make cards, we would give a special donation to the, to the different organizations that help veterans. And that's what's going to take me to actually the website and a group that you work, and it's called qrfup.org. Can you tell us about this project?
So qrfup.org is an organization that is made up of veterans, and of course, me as a Gold Star mom. That is the only veteran group of people that are actually working for the veteran. It's all volunteer. We're raising funds so that we can get therapists in all 50 states. But just in the year, a little over a year that it's been going, it stemmed out of one of the young men who served with my son. His brother was also in the Marine Corps, and he committed suicide. And Ram was deeply affected by that. And another one of the young men that served with our son, nobody saw it coming, but Jeremy had committed suicide. And it was shocking because no one saw that one coming. There were no signs, nothing. His wife was pregnant with her second baby. And it just hit everybody really hard.
Sure.
And just hearing people talk about him at his funeral, his officers, his band of brothers, how much everyone loved him.
So you knew you had to do something to help them.
Yes, it was just like too many. It's too many. Just in the month of May alone, last May, we're licensed under 988, which is the new 911 for emergencies for suicide. And just in the month of May, 988 dropped 59,000 calls. And it's because they don't have enough people to take the calls. So while they're on hold, then the calls get dropped. It's just could be communication issues that happen. But
so this is an alternative to that?
988, yes. So QRFUP is an alternative to that, so that if a veteran or a veteran's family is in crisis, whether it be a financial stress and it's really bringing them down, the lack of a job, anything like that, we go in and we try to work with the family, work with the veteran, work with the family, work with the children, work with their landlords, or help find them housing. But the immediate response is to keep that veteran from committing suicide. We don't want them to lose their life. We don't want one more person who came home from the battle and came home alive and you know, to turn around and have to deal with issues in life that take them down. We
So
don't.
this is counselors, this is finance, this is what that's okay. I heard your dogs. I got mine in the background too. Don't worry about it.
No, here's something outside.
Okay, that's okay. But what do we do? Do we donate? And again, just how does that extend to the veterans? You just talked about some different areas. So this is really kind of like a place for someone to seek. They go online and they say, I'm having thoughts or I need help.
Yes, so our biggest need right now is obviously financial, so that we can recruit more therapists. We're trying to get at
Okay.
least 30. We would like to have 30 so that they're not all overwhelmed, because this is going to be a 24/7 situation. It's
Like a hotline.
yes, it is a
Okay.
hotline.
Okay.
And it's become such an issue in our country, not only with veterans, but so many people. I mean,
But this is just for veterans,
this
right?
is just for
Okay.
veterans.
All right. I just want to make
And
sure everybody understands, because if they want to
yes,
give and donate, and tell some about this. So it's a 24-hour hotline. You go on the website. If you're having any concerns or you need to talk to someone or you're in a crisis, you fill out a form. How does it go?
you go online, you fill out your information, or you call the 800 number, which
Okay.
you can call 988, and they will, and ask to be connected to QRF up, and they will put you through to a therapist immediately.
Okay.
The therapist stays on the phone the entire time, never disconnects, never refers you to someone else. If the therapist feels like it is a crisis situation, the therapist will get in touch with the mobile crisis team people that are in that area within a 100-mile radius.
Wow.
Their turnaround time when that has had to happen is 41 minutes and 10 seconds. And that's been in the rural areas of I-1 Minnesota.
Mm.
So yeah, they don't get
Okay.
911 involved, the policemen and the ambulances and all that, unless they find that it's necessary.
Right.
The whole point is not to take away a veteran's gun, not to arrest them, not to have them put in a facility unless it's absolutely necessary.
Right.
Sometimes what happens is that's the first thing that happens, and then that creates more problems.
Mm.
And
Right.
so the veterans know what their band of brothers need, because they have the same issues. They have the same
Sure.
thoughts at times. And,
Okay.
you know, some of the guys have gone on and they've gotten successful careers and gotten their master's degrees and things like that, but they still struggle with PTSD.
Sure. Well, this is
So,
looks like an incredible resource for our veterans. Again, they go to qrfup.org.
correct.
Okay. And that's where
And
they get all that. So we can tell anyone that is a veteran, publicize this, share that to you moms that are listening. This is a great resource to share if you know a
with
veteran.
our little brochure, a little Z-fold that
Okay.
I hand
Well,
out.
is that all out on is that on the website?
This is on the website. This is an actual
Perfect.
photo from when my son served in Iraq,
Oh,
that David Swanson took, who's a famous photographer. But if you get a hold of one of these, there's the QR codes on the back.
so can you order that? How would you get a hold of that?
Anyone can go online and ask for one of these, but every page of this is on the website, all the information. If you
Okay.
want to partner with us, we have a lot of partners
Good.
that are partnering with us to help get the word out. But
Right. And we can donate.
yes, and
Yes.
that's the biggest thing right now, because
So donate
as
and
everyone
partner.
knows, donations get people help. And
Yes.
so
Can you also tell me about the app?
so the mobile app that is coming out, we haven't done the soft launch yet. That's been delayed a little bit, but it is an app like no other app that has ever come out for any of this. The way the app will work, and it will work on Apple phones or Droids, you'll download the app, you'll put in your information as a veteran,
Okay.
and then it will get ran through ID Me to verify that you truly are a veteran. And your anybody who wants to be part of a mobile crisis team can go online and sign up. Everybody has to go through
Okay.
a certain amount of training. It's not hard. You can get it done, but you need to be certified. Our mobile crisis teams will be consistent of first responders and fellow honorably discharged veterans. Our therapists are all going to be through, right now, they're licensed under 988, or we do have an affiliation in Iowa that has students who are working under licensed teachers, professors who are therapists to take calls. And our 3 biggest needs are going to be financial, recruiting the therapist just for QRF up, and our mobile crisis team members.
Good. Okay. Well, you
So,
heard it, Mom. Those are the 3
yeah.
things that this organization is in need of. And Pam, I'm so glad to hear this, because we really need more for our veterans than less. Again, this is just really going to be a great tool. I know you're already working in it, but between the app and publicizing this is a way that we can really help our veterans.
And it's for Gold Star families too. So I just want to make sure, because I am the national director for military survivor outreach.
So if someone's a Gold Star mom, they can call there as well. It's not just for the veterans, it's for families of veterans.
Right.
Oh,
Yes.
good. Thank you for that
Yes.
clarification.
And the way the mobile app will work is if someone does feel like they're in a crisis, they just push the red alert on the mobile app, and it immediately gets connected to a therapist who can take the call. Once the
Amen.
therapist takes the call, again, they never hang up. If another call comes in, another therapist, everybody will get an alert on their phones. So whoever's available to take the call takes the call. And the
Good.
same with the mobile crisis team.
Great.
It'll be going. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, Pam. We so appreciate you coming by. This is our special Veterans Day. So wrapping up this podcast with an app, a website, and help for our veterans was amazing. Again, prayers to you. I know a mom never gets over losing their child. So thank you for sharing about Derek and who he was.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Again, thank you, Pam. Thank you for what you're doing and providing to our veterans. Also to our moms, I do want to encourage you, again, as I talked about in the beginning of this podcast, to take a trip to Washington, D.C. to see A Soldier's Journey and all the other incredible national memorials that are there in Washington, and maybe even in your own community and in your state. It is veterans, and we do need to appreciate them here on Veterans Day. And if you have a veteran in your life, would you go ahead and thank them? Call them and tell them how much we appreciate their service to our country. All right, moms. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this program again today. We're so delighted to always have you every week. Again, for more information on Moms for America and all of our amazing programs, our research sources, our webinars, our blogs, our everything that we have for you, moms, go to momsforamerica.us, sign up, take advantage of it. We are here to support you. We are the ultimate support group for moms, and we all need help in today's culture. As I always say every week, from the kitchen table to Congress, from parents' rights to public policy, Moms for America has it all. And we as mothers, we are changing our country one home at a time. I will see you next week. God bless. A special thank you to our sponsors, the Herzog Foundation and Tuvu. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.